Hi, this is Mike, the EruditeDM, and I want to talk to you today about how I used HellMarch with the creator and the writer, Alchemic Raker, with Shadowdark and how well it worked out. This is not going to be a really detailed report. It is a glowing report because I was really pleased with it. I had fun, and it kind of passed all the check boxes I was looking for in a way to abstract large scale mass combat at the tabletop with without a bunch of busy miniatures and hand painted miniatures and things, which I was into a long time ago back in the 90s. um, but I'm not into these days. I don't use miniatures anymore. Nothing wrong with it, and I love them and they look great. I just don't have the time, and I haven't gone down that road again. But anyway, so I met Alchemic Raker at North Texas RPG Con, early June. It's getting farther and farther away. Seems it was just like 2 weeks ago, but no, it's longer than that. So I met him there, and he was pushing HellMarch and Old Lords. I know it's backwards because I'm on an iMac, so bear with me. But you all know what HellMarch looks like now, and you can see it in a lot of places. Um, Alchemic Raker is very active on X and on doing lots of interviews and things on YouTube as well. He should, because this goes back to the original roots of D&D. I started playing back in 78, 79, somewhere in there. Had the old blue Holmes book, and that soon became AD&D, and I got the original books, which are back there on that bookcase thing. You can kind of see behind me there, but I still have them. I don't look at them too often. But anyway, it goes back to the roots of the original game, Gygax and Arneson, where they were blending a war game with fantasy elements and playing Chainmail, and then came up with this other fantasy system, which became Dungeons and Dragons. So there's always been a merge of these two concepts in the role-playing game space. The war game, the physical war game, usually played with miniatures on one side, and then your individual party who's exploring and adventuring and going into dungeons and all the things we love in role-playing games on the other side. And what they had done originally was put those two concepts together. Now, over the years, we've gotten farther and farther away from the wargaming aspect of it. And there are systems over the past 30, 40 years that have tried to rectify that. Battle System and others. I think it was called Advanced Battle System. Even though I wasn't playing D&D much in the 90s, I think when that came out in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, I picked up it was like a boxed set, and I could go find a picture and show it to you here, but you could research that in 2 seconds. So I looked at that, but I never really played it. I think it came with counters, actually. So anyway, Alchemic Raker and I, turned out we live in the same town. I'd sat down with him at the con. I'd looked at his book. As an avid war gamer, like advanced squad leader, miniature Napoleonics for over a decade. I painted like 7,000 6mm figures and had several corps of French, Austrians, even some Spanish and so forth for the Napoleonic Wars. I was into that for a long, long time. But I saw, his booth there, and I went and sat with him and visited, and we got to talk to some of the same people and kept bumping into each other. So found out he lives in the same town I do. So we got together about 3 weeks ago, I think, and we meant to get together again and we probably will, and we'll make a better, more detailed video. He likes to use the Legos, the Lego figures, and I have some pictures, which actually I can share to kind of let you know how that came out and how that looked. Let me see if I can find a good one on here to share with you. I'm not sure what all of these are, but bear with me while I share screen, please. Technical difficulties. And there we go. Okay, so let's go with this view or that view. There we go. That's a better view. So you can see he actually has the boxes and carries the Legos around, has the medieval armies and things. So he can put together archers and spearmen and knights, and even has dragons and horses and some other fantasy creatures and so forth. But the really interesting thing was what we sat down at, and this is actually my game table right behind me here, where I'm sitting. And what we did is I said, hey, pretend for me that I don't have figures and I'm in the middle of my Shadowdark game and a battle breaks out. Could I do this just with paper and pen? He says, absolutely. You could do this with theater of the mind. All you really need is the rule set. So let me stop sharing this. So we got the rule set out and we're back here at the table. And what I did is I gave him a scenario from my zine. So I've written 2 zines. Warhorse is the first one. Saints or Saints of the Shadowdark is zine number 2. They're both for sale on my website, or you can find them on Drive-Thru RPG. So that's Warhorse there. And Warhorse has a lot to do with knights and combat and warfare, but also travel and everything related to horses in your Shadowdark game. It is written for Shadowdark, and there's spells and gods and everything related to horses. So there's also a one-shot in the back of this that's called The Horse Lord of Tanashorn. And this is kind of a funny story I was telling to Adrian Williams. I'll name drop here. For those of you know who Adrian Williams is, he's Dungeons and Dyslexia. And he and I were chatting, and I told him that there is a one-shot in this book, The Horse Lord of Tanashorn, and it's about the last 15 to 20 pages of a 48-page zine. And in that, I played it with the Monday Night group. That's Tim Shorts and Paul Turner, Vance Atkins, Ken Harrison. Joe the lawyer used to play with this group, and he's gone on to some other stuff, and they asked me to fill in, and I was thrilled. So we play every Monday night. We played Horse Lord of Tanashorn, and I have to say there's more there than probably a 3-hour session, maybe a 4-hour session. With a couple of lucky breaks, they might have been able to complete it. They did have to skip over a few encounters here and there because it could have gotten a lot more lengthy and a lot more complex. But at the end of the thing, and this is a spoiler alert, if you're going to play this as a player, tune out right now or something. I assume most people following my channel are GMs for some reason. I think that's probably true. But in the game, there are some raven folk that are evil, and they dress like black knights in these iridescent blue and black feathered cloaks, and they actually have crow-like beak faces, and they wear this creepy armor. Well, there was a character named Marshit, the Murder Lord, and he's the big bad and the leader of the raven folk that they stumble into and get caught in this factional fight. And at the very end of the first game, they could not find this character. They knew he was in there somewhere. They'd seen him earlier. They could not find him. They searched and searched, and it was getting late that Monday night. So we decided, you know what, we'll hold off and do this another time. We'll do it next week and pick it up. So they decided to leave the dungeon. They needed more hit points. They needed a rest. So when they came out of the dungeon, they were confronted and faced, as they went to go get their horses back from the stable, with one of their war horses had been slaughtered and was being fed on by carrion birds. And they were all startled and what the hell happened? And they look over there, and there's Marshit on his horse in his black armor, this tall, lanky, bird-like character in armor, and he's got his lance ready, and he's ready to joust, and he's basically challenging them. So Ken Harrison got, I think we lost 2 knights in that scenario, but Ken was playing one of the Knight Lancer class for my game. So he jumped on one of the war horses, got ready, got a lance, and they jousted and went to the combat. And back to HellMarch. So at this point, I explained all this to Zach and said, what if at the end of that scenario, he had been waiting outside the front gate? So they got on their horses, and the small party of 4 of them rides out the front gate. And there's Marshit on a horse, but behind him are maybe 2 units of 40 soldiers. They're called Talons, the Raven folk. Their nickname are Croakers, but the soldiers themselves are known as Talons. And what if 2 formed units of Talons are on either flank of him, and he's on his horseback as their leader in the middle, and he's just waiting to confront them? And let's say our characters get the city guard together inside, and they collect 100 troops, and they march out and they go into formation. Now we're going to have a melee. So let me show you kind of what that looked like. Again, I'm not the fastest in the world with this, but I'm going to try to do it quickly for your sake. I apologize. I probably should have prepped all this stuff. But so here you go. You can see that now. That is actually all I did, because I wanted to do this very simply with Alchemic Raker, and I did not want to use figures. I wanted to assume we didn't have Legos. All we have is our regular game. We're playing Shadowdark, and boom, now we have a battle we're confronted with. What is the minimal step I could take just above Theater of the Mind? So I've got a piece of note paper out. There's my character is Bregor on one side. He's 3rd level, and I just put down my main stats and numbers here, and I did the same for the big bad, who was Marshit, the murder lord, and there's his numbers. And then had to figure out how we'd mark up their troops and how we would do that. So at that point, switching screens here. There we go. At that point, I just pulled out some index cards. Just keep it simple. I had 2 different color index cards. So all I did was, and for HellMarch, I'm not going to go through the rules in detail, but I did a little short today on YouTube, and I made the point that HellMarch is terrific. It does what it promises to do. It gets your game moving along quickly and simulates mass combat, but it is not in and of itself a war game. If you're picking it up to try as a complete war game, you're not going to be happy, because that's not what you're looking for. If you're a role-playing gamer and you need something to simulate these battles that are fast, they don't have every little bit of minutia in detail that we war gamers are used to, it's okay, but it keeps things moving fast, and it's a rough simulation. And it's basically, your units are based on a couple of things. One is hit dice. So what I did here, that MF doesn't mean they're bad, MFers. It means medium foot. Okay, so medium is their armor class, and then they're on foot, they're not mounted, so they're infantry. They had 10 hit dice, so each figure you might have, each troop represents 1 hit die, and the game is really all about hit die. That's very, very important. And you're going to put them in at least two rows, okay, in 2 ranks, if you will. So that's what I did here. I just did this on the fly in 2 seconds. I said, hey, they have spear and shield. They're medium foot, 10 hit dice. There's 2 rows of 5, okay, on this side. And then as we got going, let me open up this next one for you so you can see it. Okay, so here's what it looked like after that. Once we got them done, I split mine into 2 units. He split his 2. We didn't even have miniatures for the characters, so I just used an orange die for Bregor, right? He grabbed a 20-sided red one, and that was Marshit. Really, really simple. And this literally just took 2-3 minutes for us to put this together. This one was simple. We didn't have archers. We didn't have cavalry involved. We played a second one with the Legos, but I'm not going to go through all of that one here. And that one was, a few more extra rules, but it was really, really simple. So once we had the type of units, the hit die, and how they were armed, note that mine had spears, which is a type of pole arm, if you will, or a distance weapon, a reach weapon. So that gives you an advantage in HellMarch. So then we went through some initiative. I think I had the initiative, and I attacked, okay? And all we're going to do, let me go to the next screen. All we're going to do here really is fight out our battle with our mass units and, with the HellMarch rules. And then when my character charged his character, we're going to fight those out as you normally would for 2 mounted figures with melee weapons. Neither one of us had lances at that point. We weren't jousting. This was a real combat situation. So, not that jousting can't be used in combat, but we were not using lances. So we engaged at close range here, and let me switch over to this better picture for you. Okay, that makes it a little easier to see because now we've closed. Okay, um, so you're going to basically use a stepped tier of phases, and it's pretty simple. The rounds break down into a couple of things. I believe it's initiative and then movement. You move based on initiative, and then your characters act, and then you do ranged attacks because ranged attacks would take place while you were moving, right? Or could, and they might repel or stop an attack. And then you're going to do resolve your melee attacks, and then at the end you're going to do morale. So it's basically like these 6 phases that are pretty fast and simple to go through. Now, we did not go through his siege rules in the back of the book here. We didn't go back through some of the more advanced stuff. This was just real simple, and it worked out extremely well. If you have a copy of HellMarch, I was going to tell you that over on page 10 and 11, you know, there's only a couple of tables you really need to resolve this. Oh, let me see. I think I have, God, I'm going to wind up flipping back and forth between all these different scenes. I opened, I did open up HellMarch on my desktop here. Let me get that open for you and I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so there's our 4 units, my 2 and his 2, and our 2 characters. And now I'm going to flip over to the rule set here and show you what that looks like as well. A lot of clicking here with Restream. Okay, so here we are on page 10 and 11. You know, to do melee combat, you're going to figure out your troop type, and then you're going to add up your advantages. Okay, so once you know your hit die, let's say I have 10 hit die, I'm going to roll 10 dice, and for every 6 on a d6, I'm going to roll 10 d6. Every 6 I roll, that counts as a kill. And ultimately, it may not be a kill for the battle here. It'll be a kill, but if you're playing a campaign, those really aren't all killed. They're just people put out of combat. They may be people that ran away. They may be people that are wounded, etc., etc. But for our purposes, we'll call it a kill. So you're going to look for the second table here for advantages. Let me see. Make this a little bigger for it to be easier to see. Here we go. So see advantages here. You're going to add these up. You're going to look for a difference in quality. If my guys are medium and his are light, that means I'm going to go up a point. If I'm flanking him, I'm going to go up 2 points. If I have a leader nearby, that's 3 points. And then you're going to get extra rolls based on things like your impetus. You're the one charging, or your cavalry versus foot. Or you are pole arms and so forth. So there's all these factors. They're going to add up, and then you're going to roll die, and you know, you figure it out from there. In one case, all I needed was 5s or 6s to hit, and I had 3 rounds of rolls, and I was like, "Holy cow!" And it added up. But if you roll poorly and with a little luck, you know, you might not kill as many as you think, and his guys may not pass the morale check or may not fail the morale check at the end of the turn. They stay and fight some more. But in our case, it was over fairly quickly, and his guys withdrew in pretty good order, and then I probably would have pressed it on. But in the middle of all that, we did our one-on-one combat on horseback with my character and his character. Now, his character, Marshit, wound up breaking and running off with his units once their morale had failed. And they fled the field. So if we were playing Shadowdark with the rest of my group and the guys, we would have done that battle right there in minutes on the tabletop, resolved it in a really fun way, a really exciting way. And you get the feeling that this big battle took place without terrain, without expensive models or figures. Not that there's anything wrong with that. God bless you. If you can do it, man, because I love all that stuff as well. but it was really simple. It was fast, and we got a resolution. I believe everyone was ultimately really, really happy with. Let me stop sharing and come back here. So that is HellMarch. And again, I have a feeling Alchemic Raker, and I'm going to get him back on the channel here, and we'll do something online, or we'll set up a cam and shoot a battle that we're going through, maybe using his Legos or something. I don't know anybody else with any medieval painted figure armies in the Houston area, but if you want to volunteer, leave a comment down there, and I'd love to see them. I'd love to play those battles with somebody else. I'm even thinking next year I might want to go to Historicon, which I think is up in Pennsylvania every year. And that's all miniature wargaming. That sounds like a lot of fun too. Those are my first two loves, you know, well, maybe not my first two, but, you know, wargaming with miniatures and wargaming figures, and then role-playing games on the other side. So HellMarch really could work with just about any role-playing system, really, because, again, it doesn't get into every gritty little detail, the things I'm used to and the factors for, you know, typical morale rules and what you might expect. It's very top level, just to keep things moving and to show you how the battle might be resolved, and then to move on and then get back into your role-playing game, not your war game. So I hope that makes it clear. I know you guys probably have 1,000 questions, and I probably did a crappy job of showing you that here. I apologize. I should have loaded up on Restream some of these pictures first instead of trying to share them one at a time. But hats off to Alchemic Raker. He's really hit a niche, I think, that a lot of people were interested in and want to experiment with. I'm certainly going to play it some more, and I'm waiting for the next opportunity. And it may come up soon. We're playing a mega dungeon on Monday nights now, and check us out at 6 p.m. CST. You can actually come to my channel, EruditeDM, here, and if you subscribe and like the channel, you will see it pop up on Monday afternoons, and know that you can watch it that night. But we're probably going to be coming back to Horse Lord of Tanashorn from Warhorse, my zine. We did that first one. They never found Marshit. He got away, so we had to play a second session. And we played the second session, and he slipped out again somehow. So we did a third, and now I think I'm supposed to, next time we play this campaign, this mini campaign, it's going to be the fourth session on what was a one-shot out of my little zine here for Shadowdark. So I do have another video all about that zine, and it talks about the Horse Lord of Tanashorn. If you want to check that out, I'll put that down in the comments here. But tell me what you think about wargaming and using these elements for mass combat. If you want something more like Chainmail, Alchemic Raker did that. He took the old Chainmail rules, which were written in a Gygax manner, as we all know can be rather sprawling and meandering and really dense. He cleaned them up. He made the tables neater, made it easier to digest and read, especially in the middle of a game. If you want more of that, that is a wargaming set. You can buy that, or I think occasionally he has it as a free download, I think. But check out Alchemic Raker, and Old Lords is his version of Chainmail, and HellMarch is his mass combat simulator. Let's call it that, a mass combat simulator for role-playing games. And I'm a big fan. I think a lot of people have started looking at this and tried it, and were similarly pleased with it. So hope to talk to you again real soon here. I didn't plan this video really well, so sorry for the disjointed nature and my rambling. But if you have questions and you want to press this a little bit further about anything, please put them in the comments, or hell, just email me, EruditeDM@gmail.com. I've met a lot of people in the community, made some friends along the way. I'm playing with some of them now. And I really like to talk to you folks about what you're doing in your own games. And I'm even discovering some other games I wasn't aware of. So like, subscribe if you like this kind of content, you like talking about Shadowdark and similar games, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you very much.